long as the world goes round and round, nothing goes on.
Most people in Britain had never seen a Kenyan in the flesh, nor any other person with real black skin.
With red noses will still blame the weather. Dear little babies will smile.
If they weren't being portrayed as savages, then black people were most likely to be seen as harmless figures of fun. It is therefore not surprising that Britain's right to rule overseas wasn't seriously questioned. These attitudes were ingrained from birth. Every year, school children celebrated Empire Day.
I want to tell you, children, that you are, each one of you, a member of the Empire, and when you sing that you're proud of the Empire, I want you to feel that you're proud of yourself.
It was celebrated with songs, marches and pageants, in which the tallest girl in the school dressed up as Britannia. The others, representing the countries of the Empire, paid homage to their ruler. People would find reminders of Britain's world status in their everyday lives. You could buy exotic goods imported from the colonies, or visit an Empire theatre or cinema.
From Nairobi in Kenya comes another happy picture of British celebrations in a distant territory of empire.
The truth was that by the 1930s, looking after and defending such a huge empire was becoming difficult. A large part of the Navy was employed to protect its far-flung territories, and a third of Britain's army was tied up in India alone. People in the empire were beginning to question Britain's right to rule them. And threats of this nature were dealt with harshly.
The garden party at Government House is the social event of the celebrations, which exhibit a characteristic temper of intense loyalty.
Back in Britain, though, the empire was shown to be peaceful, happy, and set to last for centuries. It didn't. The empire proved indispensable to Britain during the war.
Meanwhile, the war seems very likely to go east this winter. Already there is action over a widespread front. In Kenya, for instance, where these AK guns, manned by South African troops, are seen driving off an Italian reconnaissance plane. Treetop observation posts are, of course, well concealed from the enemy. The South African Air Force, which includes Hurricanes as well as Gladiators, is very much on the spot, and it's been dealing faithfully with the Duce's bombers and fighters. More and more troops keep arriving in these parts to reinforce our men. These too are South Africans, come to join their comrades in Kenya against the Italians. The war in Africa. Here on the Kenya front, many different types of men are defending the British Empire. Infantry from the Gold Coast, for instance, man this fort. The outpost contains a diminutive church, but not even here in the bush can a church escape the bombs of the enemy, it seems. A patrol is sent out from the frontier fort to scout for Italian patrols. I'm sorry to see that one man's having trouble with his army boots. South African artillery, having been informed of the position of the enemy patrol, goes into action from its well-concealed position, and assistance is given by the Air Force, which spots and bombs. There, on the left of the picture, you can see the enemy making off as fast as they can leg it. Now the tanks go forward to finish the job. Skirmishes and actions like this are of frequent occurrence over the wide African front. The big clash between Empire troops and Axis armies is still to come.
It provided ports, naval bases, and above all, soldiers. Africans, Asians, Caribbeans, Canadians, New Zealanders and others fought enthusiastically side by side with the British. Even so, the old prejudices were hard for the British to discard. A Times article from 1940 concluded the African races were
considered to be the more backward of mankind, and yet they show the same spontaneity and true understanding of the issue. They know that the empire of which they are members is being challenged, and they are eager in their simple way to help in defending it.
Even when sons of Africa were dying for Britain, some people still could not bring themselves to see Africans as equals. After the war, Britain's grip on the empire began to slip. Britain was bankrupt and no longer a supreme power, able to control an empire. In this exhausted Britain, attitudes were at last beginning to change. People wanted to rebuild the country into a fairer society. Holding on to the empire didn't fit in with this. When the United Nations was formed, all countries, including Britain, agreed to a Declaration of Human Rights, saying that all men and women, black and white, were equal.
Nation by nation, the delegates stand up for the great new charter they hammered out together. 50 nations standing side by side, unanimous for peace.
The idea of a small country like Britain holding on to a vast empire suddenly seemed out of step with the rest of the world. Back in Kenya, the Grant's fortunes were declining. Old Major Grant, a veteran of 2 world wars, died in 1947. Nellie keeps on the farm, but the Kenya around her is changing.
In 1942 nitwateithirie ngetha 1939 no thutha wa ũguo twaumĩra mbara-inĩ gũtirĩ kĩndũ matũheire. Rĩu nĩ ũndũ wa ũguo rĩ tũgĩtuĩka rĩu tũgũcoka ũkombo-inĩ, na rĩu nĩ ũndũ wa ũguo rĩ ũteti wagĩthiĩ na igũrũ rĩ tũgĩkĩona atĩrĩrĩ no tũkĩrũire na Ngeretha nĩgetha mehere bũrũri wi ĩrĩa ithuĩ tũkĩheana ta andũ arĩa angĩ.
Tension between black and white was rising, but white settlers felt themselves immune to changing times.
I remember a settler saying to me, "You young district officers know nothing. We've been here for years. We know our boys," as they used to call them. "We know the boys. We know all about them. You don't know anything." And it was the difference between knowing. The settler did know a lot. He did know a lot about Africans, how to handle African labour, how to use African labour. But he could not see what the use of that labour and the production of money was beginning to bring about.
Thank you.